Right. Now, people are saying that you are the missing link for Golden State.
As of today, it's been about 4 years since the Warriors have had a legit 7-footer in the rotation, and it looks as if they're finally about to change that with the addition of Dwight Howard. The fit of Dwight Howard with Golden State is unquestioned. The main issue between Howard and the Warriors is whether or not the Warriors believe Howard can commit to playing the type of basketball they need the big man to play. Hey, what's happening, everyone? This is Swish Culture. After winning a championship with the Lakers in 2020, he's relatively fallen off the map since then. He ended up in Philly for the 2021 season, and for 2022 found himself back on the Lakers as they sought to repeat the magic of 2020. Unfortunately, that formula didn't work the second time around, and after averaging 16 minutes a game, Howard was left without a contract. For the 2023 season, he's been playing with the Taoyuan Leopards in Taiwan, all the while hoping for a return to the NBA. The potential pairing with the Warriors seems like it would be a good move for his camp, as the Warriors are looking for a rim protector and a big presence down in the paint for limited stretches. Howard's proven that he can still give reasonable production even at his current age, not to mention still staying in top shape. All things considered, it seems like a perfect pairing and a done deal for Howard to play in Golden State. But there is still one major flaw and one major upside in this matchup, so keep watching to find out the truth about the Warriors signing Dwight Howard. Just don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Swish Culture for the most analytical and entertaining NBA content. So without further delay, let's get to it. Now, while this video is about Dwight Howard, the best place to start would actually be JaVale McGee. Now, we covered McGee on the last video, as well as the problem with the Warriors signing these types of big men. You know, these types of players that command such a big presence in the paint, opposing players are suffocated trying to get to the rim. Yeah, these kinds of players. Since McGee and Bogut, the Warriors haven't had any sort of rim protection. Despite this, they still managed to win a championship, but we'll get to that later. So we figured out in the last video that the reason JaVale McGee left the Warriors was because he wasn't getting enough minutes. In his limited role, the Warriors had him getting less than 10 minutes a night, making him more of an afterthought on the offensive end than anything else. Finishing lobs, cleaning up the offensive boards, and setting screens. McGee didn't want to come back to the Warriors because that role isn't big enough for him. This was also 5 seasons ago, and quite a bit has changed with the Warriors since then. It was only logical that the Warriors ended up with less centers. They couldn't offer these guys any more of a significant role, so they went and found opportunities elsewhere. What ended up happening is, instead of the Warriors retaining just enough players in the front court, they overcorrected and ended up not having any rim protection whatsoever. For those of you wondering, it wasn't for a lack of trying. The team was trying to add a skilled big man. Since these were hard to come by, they figured they didn't need the absolute presence of a 7-footer and that they'd be better served with players with more ball handling and passing, thus they ended up playing 4s as 5s. From players like Omari Spellman, Smiley, Marquise Chris to Dragan Bender. Dragan Bender. If you know who Dragan Bender is, let me know in the comments below, because I guarantee most of you have never heard the name. Except for Willie Cauley-Stein, these players were all power forwards. When the Dubs picked James Wiseman, the franchise thought they had the perfect piece to the puzzle, and had Wiseman worked out, it would have been the perfect scenario. Not only was he a 7-foot power forward, he was a high ceiling lottery pick. Unfortunately, he didn't work out, and after a bit of deliberation, finally moved on. That last year for McGee, the Warriors had 6 to 7 other players that could play the 5, so the minutes distribution clearly was not going to work in anyone's particular favor. It's likely that had McGee re-signed with Golden State, he'd have a bigger role than before, because the Warriors simply don't have many alternatives. So, what does this mean for Howard? If you remember, just about a year ago, Dwight Howard openly expressed that he wanted to join the Warriors and serve as somewhat of a mentor for James Wiseman. The Warriors' response back then via Zaza Pachulia stated,
"You know, I think we have amazing guys in this locker room, and I think we have, everything you can ask for. The veteran leadership, veteran leadership. We have superstars, we have mega stars, we have amazing role players and we have amazing young talent. And most importantly, we have right leaders. You know, leaders on the court, leaders off the court, like Steve Kerr and his coaching staff. As we won the championship last year, so we shouldn't be even questioned, right?
Well, we see where Kerr's leadership took Wiseman, and while it can be argued that Wiseman just didn't have it in him, ask yourself, what happened to the Warriors' superior player development program? So the Warriors were basically saying they didn't need Howard. Interestingly, Howard now seems to be confused as to why the Warriors are now interested in him. As a matter of fact, considering the Warriors had been interested in Howard for a large part of the summer, Howard has actually done an interview where he had this to say regarding the Warriors' interest in him.
Now, people are saying that you are the missing link for Golden State. I can see that.
I can see that, but I don't think that they want my style of center.
Why?
Not that I can't play or do what is needed, but why would they go get a Dwight Howard when they can go get a young player that maybe has no name, that it's not a risk, no off the court issues or no drama that comes with Dwight Howard or the name or anything? Why wouldn't they just get somebody in their presence?
So what are the Warriors looking for with Howard? The biggest impact Howard will have is in the locker room as a mentor for the young players, his mindset, and his acceptance of his role on the team. Secondly, Howard hints at a couple of these things in his interview. The baggage that purportedly comes with Dwight Howard would seemingly be the biggest issue for Golden State and is the major flaw in the Warriors acquiring Dwight Howard. Howard's question regarding why the Warriors would want him as opposed to a player fresh on the scene kind of answers itself. Last year's team was coming off a championship. Last year they won and had young players that were only going to get better. This year, the team has traded away all the young players and are going all in on veteran support to maximize the Warriors' championship window. This means that for everyone out there saying that the Warriors won a championship without a big and don't need one, well, they most recently lost without a big and got rid of their young players, so they've clearly backtracked and realized that they do in fact need rim protection in order to improve the team. Which brings me to my second point, that Howard would be a throwback attempt at countering the clear and obvious weakness under the basket. While the consensus seems to be a 10 minutes a game player in bursts, we might end up seeing something a little bit different. This leads me to my third point, which is that Howard will be running pick and roll minutes alongside Chris Paul in stints, and even though he's 37, he still provides a lob threat. A lineup that puts CP3, Saric, and Howard on the floor would give Chris a number of lethal options off the pin down. Add in Kuminga and Moody, and this is one of the biggest lineups for the Warriors without sacrificing any shooting on the second unit. You best believe that this is one of the biggest reasons why the Warriors would want a guy like Dwight Howard on the team. With Looney averaging 24 minutes a game last season, he's been running on E the past couple of years. As long as the minutes with Howard and CP3 prove effective, the door is open for Howard to get upwards of 12 to 15 minutes a game. Believe it or not, on paper, this would be a great defensive unit as well as offensive. While there are questions regarding Dwight's ability to get up and down the floor without running out of breath, there's no denying his ability if CP3 can slow down the pace of the game and get into half-court sets. Now, some of you probably got to this point and are thinking, okay, big deal. The Warriors won without a big and you haven't convinced us why they can't do it again. Aside from pointing you to last year's playoffs, which isn't all that great of an example considering the plethora of chemistry and locker room issues the team faced, we'll take a look at the direct impact a player like Howard could have in specific scenarios where the team fell apart last year. Firstly, a lot of fans attribute the loss to the Lakers as purely a reffing issue, but that's consigning to conspiracy theories and that doesn't help the team get better. The refs are an inevitable part of the game and the team simply has to play better to win. What the Lakers did have was a wide open path to the rim. When they didn't, they would attack the sizeless paint and get to the line. The struggle with Sabonis would have never happened, and the sheer size difference between a 265-pound Howard and a 240-pound Sabonis would have kept him on the perimeter where he was atrocious from three. While Looney outplayed Sabonis, he gave that series everything he had and went up against the Lakers and AD with an empty tank. The depth at center alone would have provided additional support going into that series. Another scenario that likely would have been handled much differently is the altercation between Draymond and Poole. There is currently no one in the Warriors locker room to check Draymond Green. And this isn't to say that Draymond is simply a bad apple, but if a player like Howard was in the locker room, he'd likely recognize that situation for what it is, and while he might not have prevented it outright, could have at least helped the initial argument from getting so out of control. So yes, size matters on and off the court. I highly doubt Howard would have sat around and let Dre's temper get the best of him. No one else on this team could or would step between Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. Dwight has enough respect around the league where a voice of reason from a guy like him could have changed the entire trajectory of a team's championship aspirations. Whether you'd like to admit it or not, that issue played directly into the Warriors' chances of winning a championship. Call it the butterfly effect. And last but not least, as mentioned before, the reason Howard cited for going to Golden State last year was as a mentor for Wiseman. It's no secret that the Warriors have struggled to develop big players over the years, with James Wiseman being the latest casualty. While I won't say definitively that Wiseman would still be on the Warriors if Howard had signed with the team last year, he certainly would have fared better learning from a 3-time former Defensive Player of the Year and 4 times All-Defensive NBA first-team big man that for the better part of 2 decades played the position that Wiseman would be playing for the Warriors. This would have been the major upside for last year. The only knock on Howard is that he won't exactly be a passer and actually be more of a finisher. As long as he's accepting of his role, does what he's asked, stays ready, and most importantly, promote a positive locker room attitude and mentorship, this will be a success. This is the major upside for the Warriors signing Dwight Howard this year. If you think I left anything out about the impact Dwight Howard could have on the team, please post it in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Swish Culture and turn on all your notifications so you don't miss any of my latest uploads. And thanks for watching. Till next time, swish.